All right, guys, we are on day 3, believe it or not, of this project. We're in the home stretch now. Um, we've got the letters outlined in black. We have this part done in. I did the same thing down here as I did up there, where I filled it in with like a wider brush, and then I went with a thinner brush and just went around the edges to clean it all up. So now we're ready to do the landscape. I have my reference photo over here. If you want your own reference photo, there's a video on YouTube that has a great shot of the sign. That's where I grabbed this from. Um, I'll figure out the name of that YouTuber and let you guys know in this video. So we're gonna break the landscape down into 4 major elements. We're gonna do the sky, the water, the trees over here, and then this right along the horizon. It's hard to tell. I even have some like close-up shots of this, and it's still hard to tell whether or not this is a tree line or a mountain range. I'm going to make mine a mountain range just because I think it looks nicer. So we're going to start with the sky, then we'll do the water, then we'll do the mountains and the trees, and I'm going to show you how to do those one by one. All right, I hope you guys can see this okay. The first thing I'm going to do is lay in my horizon line. So I have these 2 little pinholes right here. That's where I had my nails for the anchor when we were doing the ellipse. And I'm going to set the bottom of my ruler right on those holes. And then just lightly draw in a line here. And that's going to be my horizon. So the next thing is going to be the mountains. I'm going to just pencil those in real quick. Just do some peaks. It's really just kind of a jagged line. I'm going to have a peak here, have it come down, a couple peaks in the middle, and then another larger peak at the end here. And then just have that kind of trail off. And then I'm just going to do kind of some loops over here for the trees. This is just really a rough shape. We're going to get more detailed with it. And then that's it. In this picture, it doesn't look like there are any clouds in the sky. I'm going to add a few clouds. I'll add in a few of these birds here, and we'll add in, I think these must be sailboats. I can't really tell, but we're going to put in some sails for the sailboats. So yeah, there's a really good video on YouTube from someone, I want to say Allison Pryor, and she's got a great tutorial on how to do mountains. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes version of her tutorial. Step 1 is just like we already did, where we just kind of did the jagged line for the silhouette of the mountain. And then starting at the peak of each mountain, you're just going to draw a jagged line from the peak of the mountain down to the water. This, I think it's called a Terminator, like the movie, but not. And it's just a fancy way of saying that's where the light ends and the shadow begins. And it's just going to give your mountains more of a 3D look. So we're going to do that on each peak. Okay. And that's just going to be the dividing line. So it's going to be dark on this side and light on this side. Or you could do it the other way. I'm just imagining my light source coming from over here. So this is going to have the light over here. We're going to use, I have some paints over here. Okay. So I'm just going to pour my paint right on the wood. This is the color I'm using for the sky. It's actually called Ocean Breeze, but we're going to use it for sky. And just start laying it in. So just a little bit of black. I think that's good for now. We can always go in and change it a little bit later if we want. But we will go ahead and move on to the water. So we're going to use a darker blue for that. This one's called Mediterranean blue. Just use whatever you have. Again, just kind of put it right in there. Clean my brush off a little bit. That's good enough for right now. I might go back in there later and touch it up. So just like we did at the top in the sky, we're going to add a little bit of black back here and fade it down. So I don't make the same mistake I made last time. I'm going to put my black in my tray, and I might actually just go ahead and pre-mix it with a little bit of blue. So I'm not starting with pure black. That's still a little on the dark side. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's not so bad. We'll fade that in. This just adds some dimension to the landscape. You don't want just a bunch of flat colors. Fading it. And if it's starting to streak like mine is, put some more blue paint in there, and that'll kind of turn it back into a liquid and make it fade better. I think I can manage with what I got here. All right. So now we can do the mountains. I'm going to use this dark green. I think it's called Shamrock Green. And I'm going to add a little bit of black to it. So now we got this dark green. That's going to be our base color for the whole mountain. Just have it meet up with the sky here. For the trees over here, I'm going to start with pretty much the same color green I'm using for the mountains, this real dark green. All right, so now everything's color blocked in. We're going to go back in and start doing some details now. I'll go ahead and start with the mountains because they look like they're just about dry. I'm going to draw that line back in. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I can see it. Okay. And we're going to use the same color green, but we're not going to darken it at all with the black. So I'm going to use a smaller brush, and I'm going to trace along that line. And then you're just going to draw away from it, like this. And like I mentioned earlier, there's some great tutorials on YouTube if you want to have a little more in-depth understanding of how to do mountains. You can go check those out. Now that I've gotten away from that Terminator line a little bit, I'm going to use my larger brush so I can get more coverage. And see how it's fading back down into the darker color? That's perfect. Because I want it to be darker towards the bottom of the mountain where it's not getting as much of the sunlight. So I'm just going to fade it right down. Cool. So on to the next peak. Same thing, just trace your line with the lighter colored paint. And you're gonna draw it down. See how I followed the ridge and then I cut into the next mountain? So that's gonna kind of give the illusion that this mountain is overlapping this mountain. So like this one's in front of this one. All right, so you can get kind of a better idea of what it's looking like right now. So you can already see it taking shape. Next, I'm going to show you how to do some highlights on the trees here. You're going to use a few different shades of green. We'll start with the one that we just used to highlight the mountains. And you're just going to get a little bit of paint on your brush. I'm using kind of a flat, wide brush for this. And you're just going to tap it on, kind of giving shapes to your trees. And for this, you want to start in the back and work your way forward. That way, the trees in the front look like they are overlapping the trees in the back. You'll kind of see what I mean as I keep going here. So I'm just kind of tapping it in. If you have a fan brush, that would be much better for this. It'll give more of an illusion of leaves as you're doing this. See, anytime I lay in a highlight crossing over one in the behind it, it's really obvious like that this tree is going to be in front of this tree here. All right, so now we're going to go in with a brighter green. I don't know if I'm going to use lime green or apple tart. I'm going to try the apple tart. If I don't like it, you can always paint over it. All right, I just gave this a little bit of time to dry so you could kind of see what it looks like. I'm going to go back in and lighten up the sky. I definitely put too much black up there, so I'm going to fix that. And then I'll probably also just fix some areas like where you can see there's a gap in the paint between like the horizon and the mountain. I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. And I'll probably add a brighter highlight to this side of the mountain. It is brighter than it's showing up on the camera, but I want to punch up the contrast just a little bit more, and I'll probably darken some of these areas on the shadow side of the mountain where the wood is showing through. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that off camera, and then I'll go into the next part of the landscape. All right, so I just made those few adjustments. Like I mentioned, I lightened up the sky a little bit. I added some more definition to the mountains. I put a few more highlights in the tree, and I just cleaned up this horizon line a little bit. So now we're going to put some clouds in the sky. You can do that if you want to or not do it. It's totally up to you. We're going to add a few birds up here, and we're going to add these two sails over here. And then we're also going to do a reflection of the sails in the water. That's how it is in the original sign. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay. So all we need for the clouds is white. I'm going to use this brush here, the wide flat one, and just kind of figure out where you want your clouds and just dab them in. So we're doing this just the same way we did the trees. And be sure to let some of the sky show through the clouds. Clouds aren't solid, they're actually translucent. And I think that might be it. I think I'm not going to overdo it on the clouds. Just a few. So we're going to let those dry while we do our birds, or before we do our birds, rather. We're going to do the sailboat in the meantime. So they're off to the right here. I'm going to put them right about here, kind of in front of this big mountain. And the way they are in this picture, there's kind of just these two curved lines. Yeah, that's kind of it. My brush is a little too wet right now. So my white's a little bit translucent, but I can go in there and touch that up later. And they're right next to each other. That's pretty much it. And then to do the reflection, you're just going to make some horizontal lines like this that are the mirror image. So just imagine you're curving right down. So this isn't going to be quite as solid as the real thing. There you go. And you'll notice there's no actual boat that you can see. You can really just see the mast. I mean, the sail. I don't know why that is. But that's the way it looks in the picture, and that's what we're going to do. Kind of just gives the illusion that there's some sailboats there without any actual boats. That's pretty much it. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to make this more solid once that dries. So now we can move on to the birds. This should be dry enough. We're going to get just black for the birds. And they're really just a bunch of curved shapes. I'm going to use a fine tip brush for this. This is the same brush I use to outline all my letters. So it kind of like the birds that you used to draw in grade school. You're just going to do a couple of humps. Unlike in grade school, we're going to add a little bit of a body to it. So just imagine this is like its beak right here. And then it kind of goes out to a tail. And we'll beef these wings up a little bit. And just kind of draw a flock of those. So yeah, the last thing we need to do for this is the border, which is, I don't know if you can see it. I'll show you a better picture later on, but it's this, I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I looked it up. It's some sort of Native American god. So like these are the legs down here, and then this is the body kind of stretched over the landscape, and then this is the head, and there's some arms down here. It's just red and green. So that's why we left this kind of space here. I'm not going to make mine this thick. This is probably like 2 inches thick here, but I find that a little distracting. So ours is going to be thinner. It's only going to be about 1 inch thick. It's real simple to do. It's very rudimentary. So I'm going to basically just do a green stripe on the outside, a red stripe on the inside, and then it's got like a block head over here. And it's got a skirt or a sarong down on the other side with some legs. So I'm going to start that, and I'll show you what it looks like. I wanted to show you guys this real quick. I did some image searches. This is what it is we're drawing here, God of Medicine Man. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's essentially what it is we're drawing. You can see the sarong or skirt down at the bottom with just 2 little legs sticking out, and then kind of the block head up at the top. You can see it here that's a similar idea anyway. So that's what we're going to try to draw, but we are going to make it look more obviously like the one in the actual landscape. You see here I've got the green and the red all put in there. There's like the skirt and legs down here. You got the block head and the arms over here. And then I'm just going to go in with the black and outline everything. And I'm also going to add real quick the eyes and the mouth. And they're real simple. It's just like a little line for the mouth and some like squares almost for the eyes. So we'll just do that. I'll fill those in more. But I'll just lay them in so we know where they are. And you can see the blue is kind of shining through the red there. So I'll go in and put some more red to try to cover that up a little bit. There's also, it looks like maybe some sort of a feather or a series of feathers coming out the top of the head. And it's kind of just like this, where one comes off the other. And then there's, I don't know, some sort of tassels or something that come off this end of the headdress. And then he's got some little fingers over here that we'll add those in just with a couple of lines. It's kind of just like that. And then we'll outline all this as well. So I'll do that. I'm going to put a line right down the center, and anywhere where it's there's a little too much wood showing, I'm going to fill that in with some more blue. So I'll do that. Down here on the skirt, there's another little tassel or something coming off the skirt. It looks like just 4 lines that kind of come up like this. I'm just going to show you a couple of them right now. And then they have little frills or something kind of coming off the end. And then there's another tassel like this coming off here. There is some, if you look at a really good picture, there's some design in here. The green I used is a little bit too dark. I don't know. I might go back in there and lighten that up. I'm not sure. But there is a design in the skirt. They're kind of just like zigzag lines. Yeah, they kind of just come down like that. I don't even know if you can really see that on my camera. So you can add those in if you want or not. And then I'm also going to go in with a little more yellow and just fill in this space between the legs. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing that, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, it is all done. I did go back in and do lighter green. The other green that I had in there was just too dark for me. And then also right here, you can see I made the red kick out right there. That's the way it looks in the actual sign, so I did that. I did take some liberties with my landscape. In the actual sign, there's a bunch of white highlights in the water to give it more of like a ripply effect. On my first sign, I tried adding that in and I just did not like the way it came out, so I just left it out. Another thing I left out is these trees. In the original sign, you can like see the trunks coming down. I left that out too. I just didn't like the way it looked. I couldn't make it look convincing. So that's it. If you're planning on putting this sign outside, for like Halloween, or maybe you're just putting it up in your backyard like I am, definitely seal it with something like a polyurethane. Oil-based polyurethanes can yellow over time. They do make water-based ones as well that I believe don't yellow over time. But a lot of the water-based ones are just meant for interior use, so make sure you check and see that it's meant for exterior use, and that'll just keep your sign lasting a lot longer. And then you can add some hooks up at the top if you want to hang it, or if you're just going to put it on a wall, you can just screw it right in. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got something out of this. If you have questions about the process, feel free to ask in the comment section. And I'll try to answer them as best I can. Thanks, guys.